If you want a healthy, hearty, homemade breakfast that you and your children can eat every day, then maybe this granola is just the thing you're looking for. I use lots of nuts, seeds, everything is chopped up really, really small, so the children just see it as this sort of crumble topping texture, and there's so much goodness in there. We add a little sweetness from some stevia, so we're not even adding sugar, but you can add maple syrup or whatever you want to. We keep a huge jar of this on the kitchen worktop. I try and keep it full. They basically eat it every day. If you're fed up of buying puffed wheat cereals and things that are just laden with sugar and palm oil from the supermarket, then I think you're in the right place. For our homemade granola, we are going to need some nuts. You can use any nuts that you like. You're going to need some coconut oil. That helps to bind everything together, and also some good fat to help keep you full. We need ground flaxseed, pumpkin seeds, which are looking a bit empty. Chia seeds, my absolute favourite. Sunflower seeds. I use a little bit of cacao powder and some coconut, which we'll add halfway through because it's a bit more fragile than the other ingredients and it's liable to burn. As it's for my children, I add a little stevia. You can add sugar or maple syrup or honey. I use stevia because it's a sweetener and not a sugar, to avoid too much of a blood glucose spike. You might not need any sweetness, and a little cinnamon. I nearly forgot the oats, whole oats, so they're not processed. Yeah, this probably seems like a lot of ingredients, but you're only using a really small amount of each one. If you don't have any of these, you can just add more of another one or just leave them out. It's so versatile, you can chop and change it to however you want, and that works for you and your family. At the moment we have pecans, cashews and macadamia, but you could use whatever you have, walnuts, Brazil nuts. Let's chop these really fine. Maybe a tiny bit more, otherwise I'll just pick out the large lumps. That should do it. Next we need our little bowl. We're gonna get some of our coconut oil. Thankfully it's quite warm today, so the coconut oil's not too hard. Almost impossible in the depths of winter. There we go. Yeah, I think that'll be enough. I will put this in the microwave, melt it. All liquid and ready to add our cinnamon and cocoa powder. I will add around half a teaspoon of cinnamon, as it's for my children, and it's quite a strong taste, isn't it, cinnamon? A teaspoon of cocoa powder. And you can add your stevia to this too. I'm going to use just under a tablespoon. Like I said, you can add less. If it's sweet, the children love to eat. With this little concoction mix. Pop those lovely chopped up nuts in there. We're going to add some oats, kind of about half and half. We'll look at that. It's like molten chocolate. There we go. We will give that a nice big stir. I'll switch to a spatula as it helps to get everything out at the end. Beautiful. I'm so surprised that I haven't had any helpers yet. As soon as they normally hear the blender, you hear these little feet come running in to come and help me. Right. Let's add some chia seeds. You can add as little or as much as you like. Well, that's the end of that. I'm going to keep it easy for the recipe below and use 2 tablespoons of each. Use flaxseed, ground flaxseed, because it's absorbed what needs to be by the body. And we will hold back on the coconut because last time I put it in at the start and it burned. So I'll add that halfway through. Let's give it a little stir. And it smells nice too. If you're missing any of these seeds, you can just add double quantity of a different type or miss it out altogether. Okay, let's get this in the oven. The kitchen is starting to look pretty chaotic now. Line your largest tray and you're going to tip all of this out. it nice and flat. Okay, let's flatten this out. This makes enough to fill one of those medium large size Kilner jars. Preheat your oven to around 160, but you're going to keep an eye on this granola because you don't want it to catch and get that burnt nutty taste, so you're going to stick around. Let's get that in the oven. Let's tidy up while we wait for all that to cook. While we're waiting for the granola to cook, I can show you these pecans. I picked them in the garden a few days ago now, but every time I touch the vase, loads of petals fall up, so it's like gathering them. How beautiful. I'll try and leave them out on the tray. If anyone's got any tips on drying them, let me know. I don't know what I need petals for, but you can't throw these away. Now the kitchen is starting to smell amazing, and don't forget to add your coconut. So it's gonna start warming up. You can judge it on whatever you think works. You might not even like coconut, so just leave it out. Let's get back in the oven. You can buy coconut that's already toasted. If you're using that, just throw it in at the end, otherwise it's going to toast too much and get that. Ugh. Once the granola is cooked, I like to add a few uncooked seeds, just to add another level of crunch and some more goodness. Why wouldn't you? If it's not quite sweet enough, we want to add a little bit more sweetness. We went through a phase of adding some dates, but then my daughter spent the whole time just picking the dates out, so we stopped that. We had some cranberries sometimes, or we went through a great phase of goji berries. I don't know if you've had goji berries. You can get this huge bag from places like Grapetree in the UK. And any moisture in the granola, they sort of suck up that moisture and they become a bit plump and juicy as opposed to dry and hard. So there's three options. The only potential downside is that it might be a little expensive to get going because you are potentially buying lots of new ingredients. You can start small, just start with a few sunflower seeds, chia seeds maybe, and some oats. Then maybe you add a bag of mixed nuts that you pick up at the supermarket, and then before you know it, you've got a cupboard full of jars full of each ingredient that are there on hand. You can just add a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Your recipe becomes your own, whatever you've got in your cupboards. I'm not going to give you a huge list of ingredients. Timer has just gone off at 20 minutes, so let's go and check on our granola. There we go. You can actually hear the seeds popping like popcorn. That coconut has toasted beautifully. On the verge of too much, actually. This is why we stay near the oven in those final few minutes. Now it's out of the oven, I'm going to add a little final sprinkle of coconut to add a few white crystally bits just to make it look more interesting. I'm going to add a little sprinkle of chia seeds, and then my favourite ingredient, the flaxseed. So we're getting more maybe 3, and of course a shed load of fibre. If you want to add a sweet surprise for your children, you could add some chopped up cranberries, or maybe some raisins, strawberries, whatever we've grown in the garden and frozen from the previous year. A final stir, and then we'll pop it on a cooling rack. Perfect. Taste test. Alright, amazing. I want more. It tastes like dessert. Brilliant. I really hope that you found this helpful and that you will try this granola. It tastes amazing. And I really hope that your children like it too, and you can say goodbye to those awful cereals forever. Let me know if your children liked it, and of course if you liked it, and what tweaks you made. I'm really excited to find out. Thank you so much for watching. Now you just have to try not to eat it all at once.